Well, we are talking about the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in this preview here. Clearly a clickbait because obviously I picked a really good team. So I'm trying to clickbait you guys in. Of course, kidding. I cited a comment in a past video. So if you're out there, man, what's up? Not trying to clickbait you. Uh, but make sure you guys like the video if you like the video and subscribe for more college football content as any content creator out here. It's obviously not just me trying to clickbait you. I just want to grow this channel and try to become a little bit more of a content creator because I do dive into college football pretty deeply. Make sure you comment down below as well what you think of Notre Dame or anything when it comes to any of the teams we talk about or specific games we talk about, specific players, etc. Anything that's on your mind, go ahead and comment it down below. Keep it respectful, of course, but other than that, let's get into it. 2024 was a very strange year for the defending runner-ups. I mean, obviously, everybody knows their story. They lost to Northern Illinois. It was bad. I watched a lot of that game. It was very bad offensively. But after that game, they slowly progressed, and they ended up really hitting a light switch on after that USC game. In the final week of the year, they played USC. USC was close, just like they were in all of their losses and even a couple of their wins. Obviously, won a couple of close games. Lost a lot of close games. And this game, it's a touchdown game. USC is driving. Jaden Mayava ends up getting picked off, pick six. Next drive, USC still trying to keep hope alive, another pick six. And this defense really showed up and said, look, we can get places with the guys that we have. We can get far in the college football playoff. And that's what they did. They beat Indiana to start off with. It wasn't a competitive game, even if Indiana made the score look closer. Then they were able to beat Georgia, in which not too many people gave them much of a shot. I know a lot more people did have more belief in Notre Dame to pull it off than I did, but whatever. And then they beat Penn State in the semifinal, which was a huge breakthrough moment for whichever team would have ended up coming out on top. And it ended up being Notre Dame in dramatic fashion before, of course, falling to Ohio State, where, by the way, they scraped and clawed back in that game. You got to be happy as a Notre Dame fan with how this team was able to recover and come back from that Northern Illinois game looking into 2025. What do you have coming back? Well, you can be optimistic with what you have coming back. You're going to start with CJ Carr, the grandson of legendary Michigan coach Lloyd Carr, has a lot of arm talent, and certainly I think his floor when it comes to throwing the football is better than what you got from Riley Leonard as far as throwing the football at the very least. Now, leadership, intangibles, toughness, and of course, running ability. I'm not sure about all that stuff, but I think they're going to be more of a threat to throw the ball. And when you got this offensive line, that is really good. Anthony Knapp coming back at left tackle is a really good player. Billy Schroff in the middle is also very good. They made two guys who started for the whole playoff run, Pat Coogan, Rocco Spindler. They're so deep and talented that two starters ended up leaving because they couldn't play there. They were not going to play there. They were going to be second string. That's how good this Notre Dame team is. That's two really solid players, especially Pat Coogan, the center. And then, of course, they're going to be blocking for Jeremiah Love, and J.D. Price is also back. So they're going to be loaded at running back with maybe the best running back in the country. They have good wide receivers as well. They brought in two transfers. Will Pauling is definitely a really solid player from Wisconsin. He transferred in from Cincinnati to Wisconsin with Luke Fickell, and then he's going to play his last year of eligibility with the Fighting Irish. But the big impact player is Malachi Fields. He's going to be paired with guys like Jordan Faison, who I really love, being a dual sport athlete, playing lacrosse as well. And then Jaden Greathouse, who had an amazing playoff run with those final two games, played great against Penn State and fantastic against Ohio State. I mean, he made Denzel Burke look like a chump, which happened once last year before that game, but not too often. So it was a pretty dang good finish for Jaden Greathouse, and I'm pretty optimistic that this receiver room is going to be where it needs to be. On the defensive side of the ball, though, you can have a whole lot of confidence in the secondary. Leonard Moore was an amazing player, a freshman All-American last year, and he's going to look to take a big jump. So is Aiden Schuler, really good safety. He's going to be asked, maybe not to replace Xavier Watts because he's not going to play the role that Xavier Watts played, but certainly going to be asked to be a leader of the defense the same way that he was at the very least. They're also going to have an experienced guy that has been there a little while, Luke Talich, back there at the safety position. And Christian Gray is back, by the way. They brought in Devontae Smith to play in the nickel from Alabama. Wrong Devontae Smith from Alabama, by the way, but he's still a pretty solid player. Like, he has played a decent bit for the Crimson Tide in the last couple of years, even if he hasn't been a consistent starter. How about this front seven, though? I mean, when you look at the linebacker position, you got Jalen Sneed and Drake Bowen coming back. I mean, these guys are really solid, tough, hard-nosed players. You got also, Osbury in that rover position is what they call it. And then on the defensive line, I still think they're going to be pretty tough, even if it's a bunch of names that we don't necessarily know. Joshua Burnham, he is back. He is a pretty solid edge rusher. I think this D-line is going to be very good against the run, stout against the run. Maybe needs to be a little bit creative with Chris Ash as the first-year defensive coordinator and how they get pressure. So when you look at this Notre Dame schedule, you see this right off the bat, and everybody's been talking about it that has talked about Notre Dame, is you got these two big games, and then the rest of the schedule is manageable. They play at Miami on that opening Sunday. Incredible game. Can't wait for it. It's going to be Carson Beck's first game back from injury and the first start for CJ Carr, and it's going to be on the road in South Florida. They do get a bye between that big game and the next big game, which is Texas A&M coming in. Great defense and run game travels. How good is that defense going to be that really tapered off towards the end of the season a year ago at Texas A&M? Even if they put together a really good Texas game, they still allowed a lot of points to, for example, South Carolina, who just went crazy on them offensively in that ball game. After that, though, it gets a whole lot more manageable. But I will say this. Keep this in mind when you're talking about the strength of Notre Dame's schedule. Though I think they're going to be favored in every single game, and I am pretty sure they're favored against Miami. I think they're going to be favorites in every single game. This is not necessarily a weak schedule because of Notre Dame just scheduling weak. This is a weak schedule because of circumstance, because of programs like Stanford being down, USC being a mystery team, NC State might be down, Arkansas has seen better times. This schedule could be a whole lot tougher than what we're going to give it credit for, because they play 10 Power 4 opponents, and their 2 Group of 5 opponents are arguably 2 of the top 5 Group of 5 opponents in the country in Boise State and Navy. So I think that this schedule is going to be a little bit tougher than what people give it credit for from a week in, week out basis. But I do think that this schedule is going to be very manageable for Notre Dame. Like I said, you highlight a couple of big games with those first two. USC could be a really dangerous game. You got to watch out for the road trip to Pittsburgh. But ultimately, I think Notre Dame is going to be in good shape when it comes to the schedule. So do they beat Miami week 1? That's going to be the big question. Look, Carson Beck has not thrown a ton in this offseason. It's kind of an underappreciated or underrated talking point that a lot of people have been bringing up, but not enough, I feel like, have been talking about that. We're just going to assume he's going to jump in, having not thrown for a while, which means he does not have a whole lot of chemistry with this wide receiver room. So I don't think this offense has a lot of potential for week 1. I think they're going to be a later bloomer. They're just going to get better week to week, and they're going to learn a lot from this game. But I do expect Notre Dame to win this game. I think they're the better team, first off. And second off, what Miami could present issues with, I don't think it matches up very well with Notre Dame. I mean, not to mention that secondary I already talked about. When you're talking about your 4th or 5th best DB being Devontae Smith from Alabama, I think that's a pretty good secondary. Then off the bye, they play against Texas A&M at home. I could definitely see Texas A&M winning this game. I mean, they're going to have a great O-line just like Notre Dame will. They're also going to have a secondary that's returning a lot, trying to build off of last year where they struggled at times. They're having to replace a lot on that D-line, sure, but I think they're going to be able to do it. This is going to be a very tough game. I think it's going to be low scoring like last year was, but I think, again, Notre Dame finds a way to pull it out. Look, I got to see more out of Marcel Reed before I can put my full trust in him. But I put my trust in a lot of what Mike Elko is doing there at Texas A&M. I think they could be a player within the SEC yet again this year. And they were a player. They went into that Texas game with a chance to play in the conference championship. That means they were a player within the SEC, even if they went 8-4 again and they're still Texas 8-4. Whatever. Purdue, Look, this might be the easiest game on the schedule for them. I don't want to tell Notre Dame they could sleepwalk through this game. They sleptwalk through Northern Illinois, but they dominated Purdue in West Lafayette a year ago. This is first year for Barry Odom. It's a little bit of a rebuild, or a good bit of a rebuild. Notre Dame wins. Arkansas could be a very dangerous place to play here. In Fayetteville, it gets a little bit rowdy down there, and I think that Notre Dame is definitely going to have a little bit of trouble with this, considering that the players might already be looking ahead, saying the hard part of our schedule is already out of the way. But I think they're going to be able to gut out a road victory against Arkansas. And then Boise State, I think that they're not going to have their attention. I mean, Boise State was one win away from playing Notre Dame in the semifinals a year ago. And I don't think Notre Dame's going to take that game lightly. I think they're going to be well prepared. And I think the talent discrepancy is going to show in a huge way in this game. I see Notre Dame beating Boise State pretty comfortably. NC State, I'm not super high on them, but that's when a team like NC State could sneak up on you, win 8 or 9 games, and be a very dangerous out, pull off a big-time upset. But this is not one of those. I'm taking Notre Dame to win. They're going to improve to 6-0 before playing USC. USC's defense is going to be much improved. I firmly believe that, or at least a good bit, like noticeably improved. Danton Lynn is a heck of a football coach. They have NFL wide receivers with Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon. I think this USC team is definitely going to be dangerous within the Big Ten. I think they could pose a threat to Notre Dame in the back half of the season that nobody else does. But I think Notre Dame's just going to be able to get the job done. USC didn't travel really all that well to Notre Dame in recent memory. And I think that Notre Dame is going to, again, kind of have the talent edge. I think that O-line is going to weigh on them a little bit. Off the bye, we enter November. A tough road trip to Boston College, which I think this might be a neutral site game, but I can't remember for sure. But regardless, Boston College, they're going to be tough. I mean, you like to see what Bill O'Brien is building. With Thomas Castellanos was able to start off the season pretty well. And then, they go into the season with a little bit of returning production on the offensive side and on the defensive side. They have a quarterback battle going on. In my mind, at least, it's a battle between Dylan Lonergan, who's from Alabama, that Bill O'Brien recruited when he was in high school, and then Grayson James, who took over for Thomas Castellanos after he got benched a year ago. This Boston College team, I think, is definitely a little bit dangerous, but I don't see them pulling off this win. I got Notre Dame winning yet again. Then you got Navy. Triple option team. We saw what happened last year. I get there were uncharacteristic turnovers. I was talking to my buddy Cam before this video about this game a year ago, talking about the calls by the referees. I don't know what to tell you. I just think Notre Dame really prepared in both Army and Navy games very well for the triple option. I think personnel-wise, they are very built for the triple option. I got this being an easy W for Notre Dame. On the road at Pittsburgh, though, could be a very tough game. And this is especially the week after playing a triple option team is noticeably tougher on a defense than in past years. I mean, I experienced it firsthand back in 2014. Ohio State played Navy week 1. They struggled a little bit, but they got things going, and they won that game, pulled away from Navy. But then the next week, they lose at home to Virginia Tech, who went 6-7, I believe, that year, and Ohio State ended up going on to win the national championship. This is going to be a very tough game for that reason. This game is going to scare me if I'm a Notre Dame fan. Pittsburgh, I think, though, will have their attention because I've already done my Pittsburgh preview. I am very high on the Pitt Panthers this year. So I think with Notre Dame's attention, they're going to be able to gut out a victory over there at Pittsburgh. Then Syracuse is up next on the schedule. I personally don't know what the Syracuse team is really going to look like. I think they did lose a decent amount. I mean, they lost their tight end, their top receiver, their quarterback. But Fran Brown, man, he built it in week 1 or year 1 to be a very, very solid program and a solid team a year ago. And I think he could keep that momentum going. I think Syracuse will be a tough out. But again, I think Notre Dame just has way too much talent and too good of an offensive line to lose to a Syracuse team that at times struggled last year on defense. And at times they also struggled to take care of the football. 2 things that I think Notre Dame could excel at. And then finally at Stanford. I am not high on Stanford at all. I think those players will probably have already given up on the season by now. This should be an easy dub. So ultimately, I got Notre Dame going 12-0. And I would say if you are a betting person, I'm not advocating anybody to bet, not encouraging it whatsoever, but plus odds to take Notre Dame as an undefeated squad in the regular season. I like their chances to do it if they can get past those first two games. They should win the rest of their games with a couple of trip up spots there with Boston College, Pittsburgh, and USC. But after experiencing last year where I doubted Notre Dame over and over and over again, I'm going to trust that Marcus Freeman has this thing figured out and that if they can win those first two games, they're going to be good enough to where they're not going to lose to somebody they're not supposed to like they did a year ago. But with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in. Next video up is going to be the Arizona State Sun Devils. Make sure you guys tune into that one. I'll see you guys when I do that video.